You guys will be familiar with Clayton Morris,
All right.
this dude right here. So Clayton Morris and his wife, I think, they live in Portugal or something. They had to flee the country because they built a bunch of Indiana homeowners out of their money. And he used to be on Fox News, and now he's on the run. So, of course, he's a voice for right-wing politics, and he's big Putin apologist, big, like hate China, love Xi, kind of like, it's weird. It's hard to peg down what he actually means, and I'm curious to see if he actually says anything about it, but I'm pretty sure this one, hang on, so China can't do brutal lockdowns, but we can? Okay, first of all, fucko, we didn't do brutal fucking lockdowns. Nobody was arrested for leaving their fucking house. I think the most egregious things we ever saw in the Western world were Australia. Maybe to some limited degree New Zealand, but they managed to keep their case load incredibly low. But nothing like that in the United States. Like, people who opened bars or insisted on gathering people together would get in trouble, fined or whatever, or they'd shut the place down. But not being able to go in a particular place is not the same thing as not being able to leave yours. The Chinese were welding people into their fucking apartment building. One of the reasons why the protests jumped off, and it's a bunch of things. Everybody's saying it's because of this one fire in Urumqi, but it's actually a myriad of things. Like, it's the Shanghai screaming from the towers. It's the drones telling everybody not to moan too much. It's the watching people snatched off the streets. It's the beating to death of people's pets when they test positive and they're taken away. They beat your pets to fucking death. It's awful. It's all that stuff. So, and then the 8 dead in the allegedly, because we don't know the real detail. Everybody's saying the fire was the last straw. I don't know, because it's everywhere. And again, we had the people who were in the dorm at Foxconn, which is the factory where Apple makes most of its iPhones. I guess the majority of the iPhones are in China, are made there, but their biggest factory, because they have multiple factories around the world. So the majority is spread out, but that's the one place that makes the most. It's a distinction without a difference for all practical purposes. But those folks, like 8 people died in a dorm room. And then everybody, like, that, I think that was spreading when the fire happened, because people were storming down the road. There were these My Pillow versions of stormtroopers, these guys in these hazmat suits, which, by the way, I don't know how, if the idea is that you have to get tested, and if you're exposed, you have to lock down and all this kind of stuff. And the cops are in these hazmat suits. If you get a tear in your fucking hazmat suit and the rules are that draconian, you've been exposed. Therefore, every one of those cops, their phone would go red and they couldn't go anywhere. Yeah, the Foxconn company, that's what Trump was going to, remember Trump was going to bring Foxconn to Wisconsin? Never fucking happened. Anyways, let's, by the way, Foxconn is a Taiwanese company. It just has a factory in China. So let's see what these assholes are saying. By the way, I reserve the right to ditch out on this. It's 18 minutes long. I don't need to do the whole fucking thing. I'm not going to jump around, though. But I will say this. A lot of times this asshole ends his videos with selling gold or, like, crypto or some shit like that. So I'm not going to get baited into what's effectively a long, like a multi-level marketing pitch.
Now, on all of those protests in China over the past few days, they appear to be working, actually, surprisingly, although the Western media won't tell you that.
I officially call myself Western media, and they're working. Although I will say that one of the reasons you're not seeing more about it is because China will use American press and anything said by American government officials to say, they're behind it. It's the same thing that's happening in Iran. If we pipe up to some degree, they'll say, aha, they started this. They're on the side of those folks. Therefore, we have a reason to crack down.
To our sources in China, the government is listening and easing more and more restrictions.
Wait a minute. Through our sources? Is this fucking really serious?
In China.
Hold on.
actually, surprisingly, although the Western media won't tell you that. According to our sources in
China, so they know some people in China, and according to those sources, the government is going to ease some things and it's going to make it a lot better. They won't have to rise up. They've been heard. They're not going to attack the protesters or arrest them, any of that shit. They're going to, they're just going to, allow them to go home, and they're going to ease this, like, bullshit.
China, the government is listening and easing more and more restrictions.
Yeah, they're trying, guys. The CCP, they're in a giving mood.
This hour, thanks to those protests. Now, you won't really find any mention of this in the Western media.
It's almost as if they're super disappointed. They had a grand old time on Monday presenting this downfall of the Chinese government.
Right.
Oh my God, what does it mean, right? And then on Tuesday, when the government actually responded to protests in a reasonable way, the mainstream media seems utterly disinterested in that. They're like,
first of all, have you been hanging out with Diamond? Because you sound like you have COVID. This is fucked up. I hope his wife doesn't have COVID. I don't know the woman, but I don't wish that on anybody. Secondly, you mean the mainstream media isn't buying their bullshit?
our fun's over. Thanks for that.
You mean in that country, protests actually work?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's all those people, those thousands of people that go, march on Washington all the time, and
it has a purpose,
and nothing ever changes.
Yes, nothing ever changes. You mean like the electoral count, fucko?
Washington.
By the way, the seeds of the law to codify Roe v. Wade were absolutely put in the Women's March initially. It will take some time, but absolutely they have changed. I mean, you can look at the George Floyd protests and the changes made in police departments across the country, as far as like police officers who shoot people, or cross the line, are being indicted now. That's a good thing.
So according to secondary reports out of China earlier this morning.
Oh, secondary reports. Are these from your sources?
Own primary sources inside of China, controls are expected to be relaxed.
Oh, that's nice. So guys, go home. Go home, protesters. They're expected to be relaxed. They're not, but they're expected to be.
And earlier this morning, China's state council officials weren't suddenly wearing masks during their meeting. Now, up until now, they've always worn masks. Take a look at your screen at this meeting. So all of them removed masks. And
press conference of the Joint Prevention and Control Mechanism of the State Council.
Look what these protests have brought. Now, look at the lower left-hand part of your screen. Even the translator in the lower left part of your screen, not a translator,
sign language interpreter.
Sign interpreter,
yeah. She was always wearing a mask. So now, according to the Global Times, which is state-run media, by the way, China's going to speed up its vaccination program. So this is coming.
By the way, hold on. Wait, somebody was saying, I'll go join who wants communism, shut down freedom of speech, and is blatantly dumb. Okay, Karen, you're in the wrong place. Biden doesn't want communism. Neither do we. I doubt you even know what it is. It is it is not a competitor economic system for capitalism. It is meant to come after capitalism, which capitalism has to die for that to happen, and it's not going to die. Nobody wants it to. Biden is not the extreme left, whatever you fucking think he is. And I know you love Trump, so just for the sake of it, let's see. What's a good Trump quote for her?
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
That's a good one. How about how smart is Trump?
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Karen.
What about, why do you think he lost Michigan?
Michigan gave us Motown, gave us the Mustang.
And internationally, he's spot on.
A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua.
Yes, very bad things are happening in Nicaragua. And of course, important thing he wants you to know is that Democrats apparently want free health care for what?
Free health care for illegal. Look.
Yeah. And of course, most of you think that Winston Churchill is too fat to climb stairs, but apparently not.
Winston Churchill stood on the rooftops in London, very calm, making speeches. Winston Churchill.
Just genius on all fronts. And of course, not only does he know Europe, does he know history, he knows America.
When they gaze upon Yosemite.
I mean, I feel my heart just rising in my chest, don't you? But the important thing, at least he's up on what China does with technology.
They're de-engineering.
Let's see. And of course, he knows sports.
Action replays in magnified fashion.
Maybe, Karen, maybe tell us what the fuck that meant.
Action replays in magnified fashion.
Do you know? Can you translate? Do you speak MAGA?
Action replays in magnified fashion.
I don't read, obviously.
But we'll see. He's apparently running for president, so he's going to have to go to Iowa and practice those
For Iowa values.
Iowa values. Now, in all fairness,
For Iowa values.
every time he says Iowa, he poops his pants, and you can tell.
For Iowa values.
That's just a tiny little piece of poop just coming out when he.
For Iowa values.
It just leaps. You know what I mean? It's one of those words. It's like a laxative.
They don't like the gas.
I know, but they get.
For Iowa values.
That's right. It happens.
But to me, Corona means Italy.
Verona is in Italy. Corona is a Mexican beer.
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
Yeah, no one has ever told him to pronounce Burmisma. Burmisma. He means barisma.
Burmese.
Yeah, that's right. Remember the company? What was the company? Maggots. You know. Come on, trolls. Let me know. What was the name of the company that Hunter Biden worked for?
Burmese.
That's not it. It's not Burmisma either. You have to listen to this one quietly, though.
Company that his son worked for. That's Burmese.
That's Burmisma. That's right. But then, of course, he did create Space Force, not since the Ass Force.
First new branch of the U.S. Armed Forces in 75 years, Space Force. Not since the Ass Force.
That's right. Not since the Ass Force, which, by the way, I think if we're going to win a war, we're going to need the Ass Force. And if anybody could run the Ass Force, it would be Donald Trump. So...
Somebody like that can write good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to be the king.
I know. That's how I've always felt about it or whatever. And I also be careful if you ever come to a wildlife refuge to not come again.
Wildlife refuges. I mean, you look at this, you look at what we do with our wildlife.
Yeah, refuges, wildlife.
They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately.
All right. So, anyways, back to where we were. But please tell me how Biden can't complete a sentence and that he says stuff all the time that doesn't make any sense.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
Do I remember the fart caught live? I did a whole video on it. I was live when it happened. It was horrifying. I still have scars.
Bags of soup.
I know. That was what.
Soup for my family.
That's right.
People coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup.
Okay, so let's so yeah, there we go. Yeah, he actually said that. But hey, he's a man with problems.
Once it was reluctantly aroused. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused, but we got it aroused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always difficult. Anyways, let's get back to this. Butthole! All right, let's go. Now, here we go.
From the state in their own media for elderly people. This was one, of course, the biggest sticking points for lockdowns was the elderly population not getting access to vaccines. So now they're going to ramp up that process.
Oh, so he's saying China is going to ramp up the process to get elderly people vaccinated. Is that what he's talking about?
Speed up its vaccination program.
Oh, it's going to speed up. It's been almost 3 fucking years.
Which is state-run media, by the way. China's going to speed up its vaccination program. So this is coming from the state in their own
They're going to speed up the vaccination program.
Media for elderly people. This was one, of course, the biggest sticking points for lockdowns was the elderly population not getting access to vaccines. So now they're going to ramp up that process.
Oh, good. Okay. So all it took was people standing in the streets, like knocking down COVID barriers, throwing bicycle racks at cops in hazmat suits, and storming down an open highway towards a blockade of trucks to get them to speed up vaccinations of elderly people. What the fuck is going on in China? What is that place? Florida?
Which is crazy.
But they're
Right.
not.
Yeah. This is okay. So, by the way, this asshead is actually quoting the Global Times. He's quoting Chinese media.
Getting the same vaccines we do, correct? Like
They are not.
no.
And
No, theirs don't work. The Chinese vaccine doesn't work against Omicron. If you get Omicron in China, it's as bad as the wild type. It's as bad as Delta. They don't have herd immunity. They don't have vaccinations. They don't have any situation where the vaccine stops them from getting symptoms. But these assholes probably believe that China's had less than 5,000 COVID deaths. Get the fuck out of here.
the Dr. Fauci
By the way, when did David Cross join their show?
weekend took the opportunity
Come on. I'm fucking with you. Come on.
to kind of jab at them for that. Oh, that was a double entendre.
That was
right?
a great pun.
Jab,
Yeah, he
poke.
took a jab that they did not import Western vaccines, instead use their own, and that's
Right. And they don't work.
why their program has been slower.
No, it's not the speed of it, fucko. It's the fact that their vaccines aren't functional. They're terrible.
He was like, well, we had some to sell, we weren't going to give it to you, but we had plenty on the market if you wanted to buy some, so this is your own fault. But interesting because this no mask on public officials during meetings, these tweets about, okay, we need to just
This, by the way, this is, if you've ever seen fucking pro CCP tankies run interference, this is what it looks like. They've got a list of CCP related Twitter handles, and they're just running the like a list right now. They're just chopping it down, like whatever the CCP says through 3 different sources, pretending that they're not the same source.
because the elderly vaccination has been their sticking point, the reason why they continue to extend lockdowns in certain regions. So these are not
In certain regions? What do you mean certain regions? Shanghai and Beijing and Guangzhou and Shenzhen and Chengdu and Chongqing are not fucking little regions. They're the most populated cities in the fucking country and the nest of their entire economy. You fucking tool.
small symbolic moves to show the public, we hear you, we're going to take this step.
Oh, good. Yes. These are symbolic moves to tell the public, we hear you, we're going to take this step. And all it took, Jesus.
Right. And so Global Times reporting China will speed up the COVID-19 vaccination rate for people age over 80 and continue to increase the rate for people age 60 and 79. So, yeah, that, there you go. And this is all.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, it's a tweet. Meanwhile, hold on. Hold on. Let me go to here. Go to this. Jesus Christ. Let's see. Meanwhile, 44 seconds ago, Chinese security forces are cranking down on protesters in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing, Chengdu, and Xinjiang. Yeah, there you go. There you go. They're snatching people up. There's the dude with the pole. That's, by the way, this is the new Tiananmen dude. This guy with the steel reinforcement pole. Look at these people chucking these fucking racks at the cops who are beating people up, by the way. Hey, hold on. Let me show you some of the video. But hey, what's the big deal? Shame they didn't. Here's a quick round. Okay, this is right wingers saying, but they sicked them on us, so it's the samey same. By the way, nobody was attacked during this shit. You didn't see anything like this in the United States. Can you imagine seeing a bunch of people in white hazmat suits at the end of a George Floyd protest? You out of your fucking mind? There's a bunch of people trying to it's the samey same. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Protests in China are not rare. What is rare is multiple protests over the same issue, same time across the country. Protests below. Apparently in central Beijing's Lingma Qiao is astounding. It is. Look at this shit. This is fucking enormous what's going on. Meanwhile, everybody's like, we had to do that. This looks like January 6th. Yeah, except they weren't trying to install somebody as their dictator forever. They're actually yelling down with Xi Jinping, the guy who changed the rules so he could have 3 terms and then 4 terms and then whatever. Look at that shit. BBC reporter was beaten up. Let's see, hold on. And detained for, there he is. This is a BBC reporter who was detained by the police and beaten. He was kicked multiple times because he was filming the protests. Yeah, exactly. China in disarray. But guys, they're going to speed up vaccinating people over 80 because that's who's in the street. 80-year-olds. Jesus.
Coordinated.
Absolutely, it is. It's to show the Chinese people that, they are listening.
Yeah, we hear you. Okay. The Chinese government, I'm mildly shocked. I'm used to these guys shitting on America, and I'm also used to them, cradling Putin's balls. But this is the first time I've seen them go full Chinese tanky. This is, yesterday we broke it down for you that. Oh, thanks. It's just, have you thought about maybe.
Protests are a cultural way in China for Chinese people to have a conversation with their government.
No, they fucking aren't.
Whether right or wrong, it actually accomplishes certain things. So it's not for us Westerners to have the final say in its meaning.
But it's still amazing to watch.
How dare you, Westerners, look at this and see that people want freedom and say words like freedom. How do you fucking know?
One on Twitter in the West who's like, well, let me tell you what's going on in China.
Right.
All these Western Twitter accounts who've, have no idea actually.
They don't know
information from Western media sources on top of it. Today's stock market, this is not inexplicable. China's stock market booming because of this news. But again,
the Chinese stock market booming. Because that could be because of one of 2 reasons. One, because business is going gangbusters in China and it's never been better. Or it could be that the Chinese government controls the stock market and the economy and makes it look however the fuck they want it to look because they can devalue their currency. They own half the stock so they can pretend they're worth something. Are you out of here? What kind of an asshole believes this shit?
Media won't show you this. They're not going to.
Yes, the media will not show you how great the Chinese stock market is going. Hold on. Wait, 1 second. Sorry, I understand this asshole's a grifter who can't even live in his own country without getting arrested anymore because he hold on. Chinese stocks. Let's just go with, let's see what Bloomberg is saying. Let's see. This is showing Chinese, this is what they have when I look up Chinese stocks on Bloomberg. Goldman Sachs is still overweight in Chinese stocks. Yeah, they gotta trim back. They got a little bit of extra around the middle. They got a muffin top of Chinese stocks. Chinese stocks fall as COVID resurgence complicates reopening. By the way, most cases of COVID happening in the country in China right now since the beginning of their lockdowns in 2020. Look at that. There you go. Chinese. This is old. October 11th. Chinese stocks set for resurrection after Party Congress. Yeah, that didn't turn out to be true at all. But all right. Meanwhile, back to these dickheads. Okay, huge. But you won't see this in the American media. The Western media is not going to tell you how amazing the Chinese stock. You should take this guy's investment advice. Huh? Let him tell you where to put your money. And he's saying, put it in China.
Talk about the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and how that's doing. Instead, political pundits and Western media organizations are total hypocrites on this story.
Ugh, hypocrites. The nerve. They're total hypocrites on this story.
Because when the Chinese people protest, the world is supposed to stand with the Chinese people to throw off the shackles of tyranny and tell Xi Jinping where to shove it. But of course, when those very same people in Canada, the United States, and Australia, and other places, well, in Canada, where they park their trucks in Ottawa to say, we don't want these vaccine.
Okay. Again, fuck you. You do not get to blockade roads with your goddamn truck. You can protest as a person, but you cannot crash gear across a fucking intersection and consider that an act of protest, fucko. It doesn't work that way. And so the truckers that were blockading roads are not the same as protesters by themselves with a fucking sheet of paper.
We don't want you telling us what to do with our bodies. Then suddenly, or people...
They're not telling you what you can do with your body. They're telling you where you can actually ship food and interact with people if you don't want to do that with your body. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You just can't be in a food delivery job at the time during a pandemic.
Australia, who are breaking out of internment camps, right?
France, people protesting Macron, saying that the unvaccinated can stay home while the vaccinated enjoy public life.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. And then in Italy...
Totally. Yes. Him saying that and people protesting him saying that, totally the same as people being welded into their apartment buildings and left to burn alive. Fuck these people. Jesus.
Too. People were down with the Italian government over crazy lockdowns and mandates.
They were hit worse than any European country. They had more deaths than us. They've got an older population, you fucking tool. This is back. You're bitching about a time before there were even vaccines available.
Schools, and when it was like 100 degrees, still have your kids wear masks, and there was protests, right? When those people protest, then they are, of course, radical right-wingers, they're white supremacists, they're people to be vilified.
Extremists, anti-science, all of the things.
So
Right, they were called names, which is not the same as being welded into your apartment building to burn alive. Fuck these, like, for God's sakes, people. Yeah, don't forget to hit a like if you enjoyed this kind of programming. I'm the only dude who breaks this shit down all the way through like this. Oh, God. Man, these assholes are aggravating.
Tracy, I love this take on Twitter today. He said, there is no dispute that China's COVID policies are unusually stringent, but I seem to recall Australia had pretty stringent COVID policies at one point, and who protested was instantly labeled a far-right menace rather than brave dissidents standing up for freedom.
That's because of there's an important part of that phrase. At one point. At one point. Before vaccinations were available, before herd immunity had reached a cresting point in and amongst the society, at one point. The difference is in China, it's the whole fucking time. The lockdowns have been just as stringent and just as hard. They never go away, and they're extending zero COVID into next year. They just fucking announced it.
So which is it? You can't have it both ways.
Yes, you can, because the circumstances are different.
Either you like anti-COVID protesters or you don't.
Again, these aren't anti-COVID protesters. They're not protesting the disease itself. They are protesting genuine lockdowns, not, where are you going? Oh, hang out here for a week until the virus goes through you and then you can go back home. Nobody's pets were beaten to death in Australia. Nobody was in a COVID concentration camp. Even people who were quarantined for a short time got out in less than 7 days.
Of course, that's exactly what happened. Remember when Australia started rounding people up, putting them in COVID internment camps, and if you didn't get, vaccinated, you wanted to live your life, you couldn't. They were rounding you up. I don't recall hearing the Western media actually complain about this. In fact, if you talked about it like we did on this show,
man, yeah, fuck Australia and their draconian fucking Australianness.
earlier this year or last year even,
yeah, whenever,
you were called, the comments were amazing to read because they were like, how can you spread this conspiracy theory? How you guys are, whatever, you guys are right-wing radicals. I'm like, well,
no, you're a thief and a dipshit. I wouldn't go right-wing radicals. I don't even know what these fuckers believe.
First of all, we're not right-wing at all. I don't know where.
Yeah, it just happened to be on Fox and happened to have bilked people out of their life savings before fleeing the country. As you do, like a good progressive.
Got that from. We're not radical. We're just telling you what's actually happening in Australia.
Yeah, that's what's happening in Australia, or happened. It stopped happening. It was happening. It's not happening anymore. And it's currently still happening in China, but it's not going to happen. It's going to eventually stop happening because the Chinese government said so.
We were vilified for that.
And so was Djokovic for just trying to go there
to play
tennis, right?
He's
kicked out.
He's an extremist because he takes care of his body and he's healthy and he doesn't want you putting something in his body so he can go play tennis. Like, really?
Yeah, that's the same thing. A tennis player who wants to tour in a country that has rules about that stuff versus the actual people there. It's totally the same. A guy can't play tennis. Some people die of carbon monoxide poisoning because they're all trapped in a dorm room because they've all got COVID and they don't want to go down for testing because they'll be shipped off to a camp to die. And there's, Jesus.
What a crazy guy.
So here's Haley Hodgson. She was taken by Australian investigators, put into a COVID internment camp with.
And she's still alive?
Even having the virus. She was locked up for 14 days at a COVID camp that was built for 2,000 people. So they knew they wanted more people there. And she was on the Unheard show in Australia, and she had this to say, listen.
It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. You feel like you're in prison. You feel like you've done something wrong. It's inhumane what they're doing. Like, you are...
Yeah, it's like that. It totally...
So small.
Small.
They just overpower you, and you're literally nothing. It's like, you do what we say, or you're in trouble. We'll lock you up for longer. Yeah, they were even threatening me that if I was to do this again, we will extend your time in here.
So,
yeah, it's the same thing. She's out now. There are no road barricades in Australia. Fucking hell.
Unbelievable. She lost her job too because of that.
Well, that's like saying if you do that again, like even if your symptoms go away, you're virus free or whatever, it doesn't matter because you were did something that's basically going to become prison for you.
Right, and it'll probably be on your permanent record, right? It'll be on your.
Well, apparently, she didn't have it. And again, play the whole fucking clip. Don't get me started. Right.
And a COVID ID record, and your vaccine passport. Oh, she's one of those. It'll be like some sort of a badge that she'll have to show on her smartphone. Oh, you were a dissident. And we know, by the way, that these governments are watching people like her, right? They have a database of these people.
Yes.
We know that they've been actively tracking them in the United
By the way, I think it's called OnlyFans.
States and Canada and other places. Like,
yes.
You're a rabble rouser. Like, you're the type of...
Yes, it's Operation Rebel Rouser, which is really hard to say with an Australian accent. Rebel Rouser. You could choke to death. Even saying it should be a crime. I think be being a rebel rouser should be illegal because you're making people say rebel rouser and they could die.
Person that we want to watch if we're the intelligence state in these countries.
Jesus Christ. Again, that's from fucking a year and a half ago before there were vaccines readily available in the country.
So, shut up, little girl. Take your vaccine, shut up. And, oh, by the way, so when she got put into this COVID camp, she revealed that she was told to take Valium. They forced pharmaceuticals on her, telling her, hey, take this Valium because you're in distress.
Did she take it?
And so you get basically turned into like a sedated drone. Like
That sounds kind of fun, though. Like 2 week
Is that what Valium does to you?
hotel sit with some Valium. The only thing is that Valium constipates you. So that's
Look at the look he shot her when she said that. He's just about to drink coffee from his This Is the Way mug.
not fun, but otherwise, okay.
Sounds like she's speaking from experience.
I wouldn't know.
Well, who's
Did you,
watching my
have
kids?
did you have a Valium addiction we should know about?
No, but I'm just saying.
Not an addiction.
After I was sick for a couple days, stayed in my room, didn't speak to anybody. That's still kind of great.
So next time I'll just give you a box of Valium.
I don't want any because, like I said, it constipates you.
Well, I'm glad to know that. Thank you for that medical.
It's this kind of banter that we like, and it shows like their closeness. Look at her face looking at him right now. Like he's supposed to play along with this, and he's just being a dick, and she's getting livid.
Oh, you're welcome.
Natalie's medical update.
This is a known fact.
What medication constipates you?
Just take Valium with a bunch of coffee. You'll be fine.
Right.
I don't know. That doesn't sound relaxing at all.
Welcome to Natalie's Constipation Corner. This is what constipates
Hey,
you.
I can have my own COVID.
All right, I'm out. This is where they go from Australia is the same as China because some girl made a video that she was put in a COVID concentration camp and they force fed her Valium. She's still fucking asleep. She's not even there. She died. She didn't die. She's still there. Now, by the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I think that shows taste and breeding on your part. Don't forget, patreon.com/Hal Sparks. You can become a Patreon and support the show. Also, like and subscribe. There's also these things. There's Venmo and there's Cash App. Venmo and Cash App. If you use those things, it's a great way to support the show. You just take a picture of that with your phone, and whichever one you use, you can go, thanks for the laughs. Here's $1. It's a thought. It's, the holidays are coming up. Buy me a candy cane. There you go.